In this final project, we are going to make a temperature plotting library. So a library is kind of like a program, but it's meant to be consumed by other developers. They would import our library and then they could do what they want with it. In this case, it's going to import a file with some temperature data and plot it. So let's take a look at that data first. Here is the data file that they're going to import. I provided you with two data files. There's a partial data file that's a lot smaller that you should start with, and then there is the full data file that came from a data set from Kaggle. Both of those should work once you're done with your program. So our project goals, in this case, first of all, unlike the other projects where they were a lot more focused on making it work, this one, since you're using AI, you may not be writing near as much of the code as you otherwise would. So the main goal is for you to use the AI to build a program and have it help you understand and explain the program. So a few reminders here. We want to build the solution incrementally with small commits. We do want to use object-oriented design, and I will give you the classes that you should be making here shortly. We're going to use a test harness to test these classes that we built. We're going to parse data files using common validation patterns, handle bad input and edge cases appropriately, and we are going to use third-party libraries and manage dependencies. We're going to use a plotting library to create the graph, the plot from this temperature data. That's the end goal here, is to take this and plot it out month by month. So going over our starter repo, we have the main class here, which I'll get into shortly. You have your images, which I have linked in the README, so you don't have to click on these directly. Our data files that I referenced, and our requirements.txt. When you first run this, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down. You will need to create a virtual environment. So you can either do that in VS Code or on the command line. If you're using GitHub Codespaces, it will already create this virtual environment for you, so you won't have to worry about it. But unlike other projects, you will have dependencies to install, so you will have to install the plotting library that's included in the requirements file. And when you run your program, you will be running it from the main.py file. So let's scroll back up and look at our classes. Your program should implement all of these. So this is the stuff that you're building. The main file is there just for your testing, but what you're actually building is this class, and this class. So we have a file parser. That's going to take this CSV file as the file path. So you'll pass that into the constructor, and then it's going to parse it, and the main goal of that class is to give us back a date value collection class. So this date value collection class is going to allow an interface to get those values, and if we want to, we can also get the peak yearly values, which is going to be the maximum values by month. Finally, we have our temperature plotter class, and its job is to create the actual chart or the actual graph that we're going to see. So aside from the constructor, it just has one plot. So the way to interpret these class diagrams is if you see a minus sign in front of it, that's a private function. If you see a plus in front of it, that is a public function. And like we've seen in Python, the only thing that makes it private is just we stick this little underscore in front of it. We also have not seen these data annotations. This will help the AI a lot, and it is also a common practice in Python. It is the standard practice now is to use this. Type hinting is what it's called. I'm not going to go into it too much in this video. I might explain it in the lecture, but this is something you can ask the AI about as well. Like, what does this stuff actually mean? And there's plenty of resources about it. But this is telling us what data types are expected and what it's going to return. So more specifically, Your descriptions for the classes are given here. I will leave this to you to read, but these correspond to the functions and properties that are shown up in the class diagram. Here's an example of the plot we should get from our plotter class when we're done. It doesn't have to match this exactly to a T, but it should be pretty close. Let's review the AI expectations here. So the biggest thing I want you to take away and keep in mind is to don't try to one-shot it. So one-shotting is like basically telling it to do this all in one go. You should work in small increments. Use AI to explain your code. If you don't understand it, give it the code as context and ask it to help you. Say, what is this code doing? I don't understand. And you can also ask it for simpler version of the code. If it's doing something that looks a little odd to you and you just don't get it, like a lot of times in Python, it'll use something called list comprehensions. Well, if you use those in your project, that's fine, but I will ask you to explain, what does this list comprehension do? And I might give you an example of list comprehension and say, okay, well, you're claiming you understand this, so what would it do if I changed this? It's fine if you want to do that, but if you truly don't understand what it is, just ask it, can you write this in a different way that maybe a beginner could understand a bit better? All right, so work in small commits. Don't move on to the next piece of the program until you have tested the current functionality. As a developer, you are responsible for making sure the code works correctly. So always test thoroughly. You'll do that from your main file. We'll do that in a second. Make sure you can comfortably explain it. So your workflow as you're going through this should be in your main.py. Figure out what you want to do first. I've given you some examples here. So if you want to completely throw this away and work at it, with your own implementation, you can. But as I was building mine, this is some stuff that I did. I built my date value collection first, and so I have a few tests in here to sort of sanity check it. And I see, okay, well, I need to uncomment these two lines to make this work. And I would give it a run, put a breakpoint here, and make sure that it's at least doing what it should be at this point. And then, for example, it should raise an error if I add a duplicate date. That's one of the requirements. So I test that piece here. So test every little individual requirement from your main class. That's where you're going to call your three supporting classes: your date value collection, your temperature file parser, and your temperature plotter class. If you have any questions, it's your responsibility to ask the instructor what you need to do. Good luck and happy coding.